Hey BookTube, Chelsea the Reading Outlaw here to do, as promised, a review of We Are the Ants by Shaun David Hutchinson. This book, you guys, I read this book as part of judging for the Mock Prince Awards in Kansas City. Prince Awards being a literary award for young adults set upon by the Young Adult Library Association. This book really hit me hard, you guys. I was not expecting, based on the plot I knew of this book, to really be super into it. This book is about a boy named Henry. Henry is abducted by aliens that he calls the Sluggers, and the Sluggers give him 144 days to decide if he's going to save the world. I think in my original review, I said he gets like a year, but he only gets 144 days. And he basically has to decide whether he's going to push a button and save humanity or let the world perish. So the story follows his kind of wrestling with that decision because a lot of really bad shit has happened in Henry's life. So he's not really sure if the world is the kind of place that he wants to allow to continue, basically. When we meet Henry, his boyfriend has just killed himself. Their mutual best friend has become incredibly distant. The boy he's currently seeing is closeted and incredibly abusive to Henry. Well, Henry's brother's girlfriend has just gotten pregnant, so Henry's brother is going to drop out of college. And there's a new boy in town that's giving Henry a lot of feelings, and Henry's not really sure what to do with that. See all of the previous shit I just mentioned that he's also dealing with. So there's a lot of stuff going on in this book. There are a lot of layers and a lot of heavy topics that are tackled in this book. But it's all put in kind of such a surreal framework that it makes it a very interesting reading experience, because you will have these really powerful conversations that Henry has with himself about what kind of world it has to be for someone to commit suicide. There's a lot of survivor's guilt that Henry is reckoning with, and there's a lot of depression and really low self-esteem that Henry has because of the choices that his boyfriend made to end his struggles with mental health and to kill himself. So there's a lot of issues that Henry is reckoning with in terms of feeling like he should have seen it coming, or that he wasn't enough to keep his boyfriend from committing suicide. And while those thoughts are incredibly common and incredibly understandable, if you are somebody who's been through or had experience with dealing with suicide or dealing with mental illness and self-harm in your life or the lives of those that you love, you know how nonsensical that is. Mental health is not something you can control in another person. Suicide is not something that other people bear the responsibility for. But that doesn't make it any easier for Henry. Then you get into the relationship that he has with the guy that he's currently seeing. And here's my thing with that. There are several instances of actual hate crimes in this book, and the adults don't fucking do anything. Maybe that's realistic, maybe it's not, maybe it's cynical, maybe it's not, but they don't fucking do anything, and that's unacceptable. Henry is assaulted in the showers. He's tied up and paint is poured all over him while he's in the showers after gym class. He's almost raped on a football field. His stuff is vandalized. He's mocked and taunted. These are legitimate hate crimes, and his teachers, with the exception of one, do nothing. They say nothing. They try to blame Henry or say that he provoked it or tell him to keep his head down so that this kind of shit doesn't happen to him. And that's unacceptable. That's not the kind of behavior, and that's not the message we give to teenagers. You don't treat other people like that, period. It is incredibly further complicated by the fact that Henry is sleeping with this kid and hooking up with this kid who's a part of the group of teens who are treating him so poorly. So it gets into issues of being closeted and shame, deep shame, and the kind of things that shame can have one person do to another person. There's this conversation between this boy and Henry where Henry is asking him and giving him a really hard time about how he only ever wants to make out when none of his friends are around. And this other boy says to him, like, did you ever think that maybe I just wasn't strong enough and I needed you to be the person to tell them for me and to out me so I didn't have to do it? And again, while I may understand that urge, and while I don't necessarily think that's an unrealistic desire for somebody who's so closeted and ashamed to have, that's also not Henry's fucking job. And that's bullshit to put that on Henry. It's emotionally abusive. It's emotionally escapist. And I just did not like that character very much. He's written incredibly well. As a character in the story, he functions incredibly well, but I just did not like him. Diego, though. Diego moves into town, and Diego is the boy that Henry starts to like, really like. Diego is kind. Diego is wrestling with a lot of his own demons. The book gets into discussions of the justice system and race and the justification of domestic violence and self-defense and where you draw those lines. All of those things are discussed within the context of Diego. So I really like that Diego acts as a complete foil to all of the other relationships that we kind of see Henry get through his life. He's supportive in a way that gives Henry the emotional room he needs to work through his shit, but he also just doesn't consistently and constantly give Henry carte blanche, which is a really good dynamic to see in a teenage relationship because it's not always something that's there. There's something I wanted to talk about this book, and there's a reason this book didn't get 5 stars for me because I absolutely loved this book. But there is something that happens that is very specific to me, but I know for a fact is a very shared experience that if you're not ready to read it can really hit you hard. And that is that in this book, Charlie's girlfriend who is pregnant actually ends up miscarrying. And I think she's like 6 or 7 months along, so it technically is actually a stillbirth. She ends up having a stillbirth, but she ends up miscarrying. And if you've ever gone through something like that, if you've ever had women in your family go through something like that, even once, it's something that stays with you, and it's something that if it comes at you and you're not necessarily ready for it or expecting it, it can really pull the rug out from under you in like a way that is very intense. It was difficult for me. It was a difficult experience for me at that moment reading this book. And it's handled well. It's not that the book doesn't handle it well, but the way Henry and Henry's brother and Henry's brother's girlfriend all react to this change in the family dynamic struck home to me in a way that was really powerful. But because I wasn't expecting it, and because it hit me so hard in a way that I felt kind of came from left field, like it wasn't necessary for the plot. It almost just felt like one more shitty thing to happen to Henry to keep him from pushing the button. But for me, it just did not, I don't think it landed the way Shaun David Hutchinson wanted it to land. Yeah, that is my review though of We Are the Ants. Please let me know if you've read it, what you thought. I really want to talk to some people about this book because like I said, there are several layers to peel away in terms of what the book talks about and the kind of messages that it's telling us. It does not get a clear ending. Throughout the book, Henry is keeping a journal of possible ways he thinks the world might end if he doesn't push the button. So we get kind of these fun little doomsday scenarios of everything from like super plague to mutated giant cockroaches to the androids take over in alongside these really intense scenes. So yeah, there's just a lot going on in this book. Please let me know if you read it. Comment down below. If you think you're going to pick it up, hit me up on Twitter or on Goodreads to let me know what you thought. If you have comments, questions, concerns, as always, you can leave them down below or you can hit me up all over social media. I'm always here to talk books with you guys. Until next time, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Have happy reading. Bye.